The Review Advisory Group is one of Leeds Safeguarding Children Partnership subgroups. This group is chaired alternatively by 3 senior leaders from either police, health or children's services who are all members of the group. The independent scrutineer, David Derbyshire, plays a crucial role in decisions taken by the RAG, providing independent advice and scrutiny in his role. There is also a legal representative present in all decision-making meetings. The RAG plays a crucial role in identifying and learning from serious child safeguarding incidents. It oversees the review process to understand and identify areas for improvement and good practice. The RAG's primary function is to ensure that lessons are learned, good practice is shared, and that there are action plans to address areas for improvement, all with the aim of strengthening safeguarding in Leeds. Hello again, I'm Matthew and I'm a Superintendent in West Yorkshire Police. My role consists of 2 halves. The first one is to direct neighbourhood policing activity in the District of Leeds, and the other is to build strong partnerships with statutory and non-statutory bodies. This can be anybody from the local authority to shopping centres to our local airport. My partnership role requires I sit as a mandatory statutory member on the Review Advisory Group. This group decides if cases where children have died or come to serious harm are referred to the National Review Mechanism. In any case, we ensure all the learning is maximised from any incident regardless of any recommendation to the National Panel. My role does not give me direct command of any police safeguarding resources. Instead, I act as the link between the Review Advisory Group and policing to ensure that learning is embedded across my organisation and that cases of concern are flagged for review. It is a privilege to be entrusted with such an important role.
I'm Jill Marchant. I'm Head of Safeguarding and Designated Nurse for Safeguarding Children and Adults, and I work for the West Yorkshire Integrated Care Board, which is part of the NHS, and I work within Leeds. My role is a strategic role in terms of safeguarding not just children but adults, and also take a lead within domestic violence, so preventing domestic violence and responding when patients are being subject to domestic violence or are indeed perpetrators of domestic violence. So I manage a team who provide advice and support for primary care. So that could mean on a daily basis that we have GPs or practice nurses telephoning for advice or support. So they may have seen a child maybe that morning in surgery, or have seen an adult who they believe is either being victim to domestic abuse or maybe to some safeguarding issues within their own home. And they will phone up my team for advice and support. We also ensure that they are fully trained in recognising the signs and symptoms of child protection, adult safeguarding and domestic violence, and they know how to respond and react. I also have a role in ensuring that the services we commission, so for example the Leeds Teaching Hospitals Trust, so the LGI and St James's, are meeting their statutory safeguarding requirements.
Hello everyone, my name is Farah Khan. I'm the Deputy Director for Children's Social Care in Leeds. My role involves responsibility for children's social work service, for our early help services, for our residential services, our fostering services, so all the preventative and child protection services across social care in Leeds. As part of that role, I also have a lead responsibility for safeguarding, and that involves being a member of the Review Advisory Group along with partners, senior leaders from police and from the ICB. So we'll start with neglect, the importance of understanding neglect and its profound impact on children. Neglect may not always make headlines, but it shapes lives in ways that last long beyond childhood. So whatever your role is when working with children and families, an understanding of neglect is essential for ensuring improving outcomes for children and providing the right support. Neglect in the context of child well-being refers to the failure to provide for a child's basic physical, emotional, education or medical needs. Unlike abuse, which involves harmful action, neglect is actually characterised by harmful inaction, by what is not done rather than what is done. This might mean a lack of food, clothing or shelter. It could be failing to provide emotional support, supervision, love, warmth. It might also involve not seeking medical treatment when a child is unwell or not ensuring that a child goes to school. It can be subtle, often invisible, and it sometimes happens without any ill intent at all, but its effects can be devastating. So why does understanding neglect matter? So neglect is the most common form of child maltreatment, yet it is often the least recognised. The consequences of neglect ripple far beyond childhood. So by understanding neglect, we become better equipped to recognise the signs, offer support and prevent long-term harm. Consider this: a neglected child might not have visible bruises, but children experiencing neglect might struggle in school, might have difficulty forming relationships, or cope with physical and mental health issues well into adulthood. The earlier we recognise and address neglect, the greater chance we have of helping a child heal and thrive. Detecting neglect isn't always straightforward. There's no universal signs, but here are some common indicators to look out for. Children frequently appearing hungry or unwashed. They wear clothes that are inappropriate for the weather or consistently dirty. They often miss school or struggle academically. They might appear withdrawn, anxious or excessively fearful of making mistakes. They might miss medical appointments, have medical or dental issues that go untreated. They may take on adult responsibilities of care for themselves or siblings at a very young age. Of course, these signs can also be caused by other factors, but they are important signals to pay attention to. All practitioners need to be aware of such patterns of behaviour and reoccurring concerns that help us understand the cumulative impact of on a child.
So I'm going to talk to you around domestic violence. So a lot of work has been done in terms of moving away from victim blaming and safety planning when working with domestic violence. This is essential in supporting people, and we see lots of really good practice across Leeds when supporting victims of domestic violence and also around working with perpetrators. However, at times we have seen the professionals working with children lose sight of the child as a victim in their own right. So thinking about the effects and the dangers faced by children in homes with domestic violence is a pervasive issue. It not only affects those who are directly targeted, but also has profound and lasting consequences for children living in such environments. While children may not always be the direct victims of abuse, exposure to violence within the home can deeply influence their development, their well-being and their future prospects. Recognising the impact and the risks to children in homes where domestic violence occurs is essential as part of an effective safety plan and support. Children may witness violence directly or indirectly. For example, noticing the aftermath such as injuries, property damage, or changes in behaviour of the non-abusive parent. Even infants and very young children can be profoundly affected despite being unable to articulate what they have seen or what they have heard. In terms of risks to children, in homes where domestic violence is present, the risks to children are wide-ranging and serious. These risks may include direct harm as well as indirect consequences that affect every aspect of a child's life and development. Domestic violence in the home exposes children to a range of serious risks and can have a deep, lasting impact on their emotional, physical and psychological well-being. The effects can manifest in a myriad of ways, from mental health issues and behavioural problems to difficulties in education and relationships, and can even perpetuate violence into adulthood. Recognising the signs, understanding the risks and providing timely support are vital steps towards breaking the cycle of violence and ensuring all children have the opportunity to heal, grow and thrive. For practitioners, educators, family members and communities, vigilance and compassionate intervention can make an invaluable difference in the lives of children living with domestic violence. Now, thinking about the impact of domestic violence on children, whether children are direct victims or witnesses, growing up with domestic violence can have a significant and far-reaching impact on their physical, emotional and psychological development.
Child exploitation remains one of the most serious safeguarding concerns facing children and young people today. It is often hidden in plain sight. It does not always present through physical harm or obvious signs, but its impact is always profound. Exploitation can take many forms: sexual exploitation, criminal exploitation, trafficking or financial coercion. Perpetrators groom, manipulate, deceive and control children for their own gain. And yet, children affected are frequently misunderstood. They may often be labelled as difficult, defiant or choosing a certain lifestyle. This is not accurate and it's not acceptable. Children who are exploited are victims of abuse and must be treated as such. We have seen at times the focus becomes on the child's behaviour and away from those who abuse children. This can lead to children experiencing repeated moves and being further traumatised. We must also reflect on the way unconscious bias impacts our decision making for certain children. Adultification bias occurs when children, particularly those from Black, Asian or minoritised communities, are perceived as older, more mature and more responsible for their actions than they actually are. This often leads to reduced empathy, inappropriate expectations and a failure to identify safeguarding needs. This bias can result in missed opportunities to protect children and can reinforce harmful stereotypes. We must be vigilant in recognising how language, assumptions and institutional attitudes influence the way children are treated. As professionals, our responsibility is to respond with care, clarity and consistency. To achieve this, we must do the following. We must recognise the signs of grooming and coercive control, regardless of a child's presentation or background. Use language that identifies the child as a victim, not as a perpetrator or an instigator. Challenge and reflect on personal and systemic bias, and approach every child with curiosity and compassion, asking what has happened to them. Every child deserves to be protected, respected and understood. When we shift our focus from blame to context, from judgment to support, we create the conditions for safety and recovery. Sexual abuse has a profound impact on children. It can be very frightening for a child to share their experiences, and therefore sensitivity and trauma awareness are vital. Children rarely fabricate disclosures of sexual abuse, and therefore our starting position should always be to believe children. Many children do not disclose abuse directly. Instead, they may present with behavioural changes, emotional distress or signs of sexualised behaviours. Practitioners must remain curious, vigilant and explore concerns with sensitivity and care. Safeguarding children requires a collaborative working and regular information sharing is essential. This helps us all build a comprehensive understanding of risk and need. It also helps build trust with the child to ensure their voice is listened to and heard. And it is their voice that should remain central to all assessments and plans. When working with children and families where there are concerns relating to neglect, domestic violence, child sexual abuse or child exploitation, in serious case reviews we see some commonalities in practice and themes. For most children who experience serious harm from abuse or neglect, their attendance and engagement with education was an area of concern over time. Therefore, schools play a key role as a protective factor for children as well as improving long-term outcomes. So all practitioners working with children need to ensure education is central to a child's plan. For this reason, in Leeds, education as a protective factor is one of the principles of the practice model. This is particularly important where children have special educational needs and disabilities, as this increases their vulnerability and therefore the risk. Professional curiosity is also essential to connect all the pieces of a child's world to fully understand risk and need. Central to this is the child's voice. It is their understanding of their world. Children need to be heard and believed, and the professionals in their lives should work together and remain focused on improving outcomes for them. Safeguarding is everyone's collective responsibility. Multi-agency safeguarding brings together expertise and perspectives from different disciplines to understand the risk and to support the child and family as the team around the child. Lastly, the history and patterns of behaviour surrounding a child is particularly significant in understanding neglect. For some practitioners and services, chronologies form a key part of understanding the events in a child's life and the patterns which may help build a picture. For others who may have a limited involvement, it is key that information sharing is accurate, up to date, and they can provide a professional analysis in decision-making forums, such as child in need meetings, child protection meetings, and strategy discussions to provide a comprehensive understanding of the risk and need that leads to outcome-focused plans.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and we hope you have a clear understanding of the Review Advisory Group. If you need any further information about the Leeds Children Safeguarding Partnership or the Review Advisory Group, please look on the LSCP website.